so what's up? I'm here with Anthony Trucks. Anthony has been a coach, a mentor, a friend of mine for over 3 years now. He helps people shift their identities and become the person they need to be to achieve the goals that they want. This dude has a crazy backstory, has done a lot of cool stuff, played NFL. He's been on American Ninja Warrior, played around with some other TV stuff. I first was introduced to him when I saw him on stage at a Brendan Burchard event. And I mean, there's a ton more things that I'm forgetting that you've done. But Anthony, thank you for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat and share whatever will help your people and maybe cathartically get something out of me I don't know is there. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we were chatting before the show. The main premise is, what's the one person, the one connection that changed the whole trajectory of your life, your business? Yeah. Something that really made an impact. And I know you're going to have a really cool story with this. So let's dive into it. Because I don't think I even know this story.
I'm about to dive in. Is that how Trey Songz does it? That's what he says. It's the whole thing. It's a whole different kind of diving in, though. He's talking about diving into. Anyways, here we go. So back, it was 2000. What was this? 2010? Might have been 2010. I want to say. I have a cousin, and I have a wife, and then she has a cousin, and her cousin worked for this company called PG&E, and he was asking me to come, and he would go to my gym, and he would do these videos. I had a gym at the time. He'd do these videos where it was stretch and flex. So you'd have me get these 3 people together. He'd come out and film, and I'd record a video of me teaching these people that he would go use at his company of how to stretch out and warm up before they would do work. And so that was this conversation. And then I think a little bit later, I asked him hey, how are these things working? Are they working? He goes, no, they're not working. People aren't doing anything. I said, well, who is the person to talk to see how to, get these people to do stuff? A guy named Tim. So I'm like, all right. So I talked to Tim. So that was the connection. I talked to this guy, Tim. Tim was in charge of, it's kind of like safety within this big, and it's a multi-billion-dollar company called Pacific Gas and Electric. And Tim was part of this company. And so I talked to Tim. I was like, hey, Tim, man, what is the thing you guys need? He's like, well, we have a lot of strains, sprains, soft tissue injuries, that kind of stuff. And to be quite honest, we have something in place called stretch and flex. And I go, well, what's stretch and flex? So he breaks it down, and I kind of talk to him. And this was the key connection, because I kind of just picked his brain on what his job was, what he was struggling with, where the company was seeing a pain point, what they needed some help with. And what they needed was to get their people to move more so they could stop paying a whole bunch of lost work days or injuries or workers' comp and all that kind of stuff, right? And they needed to be able to have something that allows their workers to get more work done faster with less injuries, saves them money, makes them money at the same time. It's a good cycle. So what I did, I was like, all right, let me figure out how to kind of navigate this. So I did. The sales cycle for corporate is very long. It's just a long time to get in, to establish, to eventually get paid. Once they even you get in the system, they initiate a payment, it's up to 60 days to even get the payment. It's ridiculous. So it took me a year to this process, but with Tim in the back pocket having a conversation, it was a moment in time when we kind of all right, finally got through and all right, you got the contract, which was very big because we're talking a large contract. And in fact, at one point I gave him a number and he goes, well, let's go ahead and tack 100,000 on there because we have an extra 100,000 we got to figure out what to do with by the end of the year. Because if they don't use that money, they don't get the same budget the next year. They had to put it somewhere. I was like, oh, I'll take it. Give me that. No. So we tacked that on. So what happens is I'm in this pocket where I'm able to now get paid really well for this contract. It was about $250,000 contract and profit was 220. So I got good money. I'm in the ends with this big corporation, and it's a very good, credibility builder. We do a really, really good job. And in doing so, I got introduced to this world of consulting. So I'm like, oh, I can leave this gym that I own and go take my brain and make revenue off of this. Again, it's just from the one guy connection that gets me into this company after a year, get it built. I start consulting with a company that was called Fire Alumni. And so they have this thing where they have firefighters. And the firefighters, they got to do what's called a CBEST. It's a test, physical, test. And so they need someone to come in and train. Well, this guy that was a buddy of mine had been following me and knew that I had this gym and then I had this thing I was doing for consulting. He's like, hey, I got this area, this guy who was supposed to do the gig. He ended up getting cancer, unfortunately, and he can't do this presentation. We need someone that knows this stuff. And so I know you consulted for PG&E. Do you mind coming in and doing his presentation? I was like, all right. They gave me this guy's slides. Then not even know what they were. I just kind of all right. And for 3 hours, I just taught off his slides. I kind of made my own stuff up, but I have fun while I do stuff. So I do the whole thing. And again, this came from the consulting. They knew what I did. That turned into me doing more stuff with them. And eventually one of the guys gave Jadon Cherry goes, hey, we're going to do this thing where we actually record what you're doing. And we're then going to go ahead and put it on a website. And we're going to let people pay us money to access it. And I go, what? This is blasphemy. What are you talking about? You're gonna give this stuff away on the internet? Really? People are gonna pay you money for a video? Are you crazy? This ain't a movie. This is the interest of the world. He goes, yeah. Well, what happens is this guy Brendan Burchard, he teaches this company called this something called Experts Academy. I'm like, what are you talking about? So he gives me this link, expertsacademy.com. I go, okay, cool. I'll check it out. I find myself in a Starbucks in Brentwood, California, in the Northern California area, not the one that O.J. Simpson was living in. And I'm up there and I'm just sitting there watching this dude on the computer. I'm like, this is amazing. Look at this guy. And I'm like, I'm going to do all of this stuff. I got this story to tell. I get enamored by the concept of my life in and of itself is of value to the world. If I understand how to frame it, position it, share it, teach from it, all that kind of stuff. So again, we go backtrack. It's this conversation with the guy that gets me a contract, that gets me paid, where I learn about the consulting. People see that I'm consulting. I get asked to consult again somewhere else. That leads me to this information being introduced to me from this one guy who then has me on this link watching this video. And I go, oh man, this is crazy. And then I find out that while I live in the Brentwood area of California, this guy Brendan holds his events in Santa Clara, California. It's about an hour and 15 south of me. I'm like, I'm going. I'm this football guy. I'm going. And I walk into this world that I didn't know existed. It's a room full of 2,000 people. They're hugging and high-fiving and music's playing and some, happy-go-lucky white dude's out there clapping his hands like a seal. He's just doing his damn thing in his suit. And I'm like, look at this guy. It's so cool. And so next thing I know, I'm sitting in this room. Is this good? Because I got a lot of story. This story can go for a
this
while.
is awesome. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And everyone knows who Brendan Burchard is. So this is really interesting. Yeah.
Make sure we're still going. All right. So we go to this event and I go with a couple buddies. And I think at one point one of the guys came and I didn't have a ticket. So I was like, hey, can this guy get a ticket? I have an extra one, but I guess I didn't register him properly. And the lady at the front was like, yeah, fine, I'll get you set up. And I was like really gracious and nice. And she was nice. And I said, thank you. I wasn't rude. Anyways, I go into the event, and the whole event I'm in there just, having fun and hanging out and doing my thing. And then at one point he always asks you to like, hey, stand up, get with a group of 5 people and then have a conversation. I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna do that. Why? I sit in the back of the room typically because I got to go to the bathroom and I just like to be able to escape quickly if there's a fire. Don't ask why. It's just how my brain goes. I don't want to have to stomp on your face to get out, but I'll do it. So I'm in the back of the room and get a little group together. And one of the girls in the far back who's by herself comes into the group. I tell my story. I sit down. No issue. Tell my story. I want to say the next day I'm walking in the hallway and that woman who had checked me in at the front desk goes, hey, tell me your story. I'm like, oh, this is weird. But by this time I'm like, I'll tell you my story. I'm happy. I'm like open now, And so I tell her my story. She's like, okay. And then she walks away. I was like, oh, okay, cool. She walks away. No idea who she is. And so I'm doing my thing. And then I come to a couple more events, 2 or 3 more events. I'm still coming. I'm invested. I'm showing up. I'm doing the work. And I'm actually doing the work. Like I'm posting the things, doing the things, all that fun stuff. And then at one point, that same woman, I come to find, she's like the manager. And she oversees a lot of stuff with his company. And she goes, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. Happens to be Mel Robbins or Abraham, sorry, Mel Abraham. He's Brendan's right hand. She goes, hey, Mel, this guy's a 5. And I don't know what a 5 is at the time. I didn't know. Literally, she's like, this guy's a 5. And I'm like, I don't know what a 5 is, but I think it's a good thing. She's like, it's a great thing. It's like a scale of 1 to 5. She's like, this guy's a 5. And I was like, cool. I didn't know that till later though. So Mel's like, I talked to Mel. I was like, cool. All right. Nice to meet you. No big deal. Leave it alone. And then I go to another event. She goes, hey, you've been coming to these events a lot. Would you want to volunteer? Would you be okay with volunteering? I think you'd be a good guy to come hang out and be around and help us. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm a volunteer. Now, I'm not a guy that wants to volunteer to meet anybody. Like, Brendan's cool, but I played in the NFL, so I don't have this whole, like, I got to meet people. They're so amazing. I'm like, he's a dude. He probably poops and blows a bathroom up, and his wife gets mad because he don't put the silly, like, that just happens. People are people. So I'm not out here like, I'm a fan. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I wanted to learn about the world because I love the world. I've been going to 5, 6 of these damn things. So I come out and start volunteering, and here's where it kind of unfolds. That very first event I went to, all the people in the circle, that one girl that came from the back of the room to the front of the group, her name was Cammie. Cammie happened to be the fiance of a guy named Jeremy. Jeremy's dad happens to be Mel Abraham. Cammie was a volunteer for the event. She worked for the whole crew. She went and told this woman named Denise about my story. Denise stopped me in the hallway, says, tell me your story. I told Denise my story. They start watching me. Nobody says anything. It's kind of creepy, but it works. And so we're doing our whole thing, and then they're eventually like volunteer, and I come to find like, oh, that's why. And so I volunteer and I just do my thing. I'm having conversation, talking, no big deal. And I'm helping people. I show up fully to serve. Like I want to be happy. I want people to have a great experience like I had. So that's all I did. That was the focus. And at one point they're like, hey, you want to meet Brendan? I'm like, yeah, I'll go meet Brendan. So I go and I meet Brendan. And then that was it. And then, eventually they're like, hey, Mel can't make it. Do you mind walking Brendan to his room? I'm like, yeah, I'll walk him to his room. Granted, you got to keep in mind, I've gone from being a guy that didn't know that this dude existed. There's a room of 2,000, and now I'm the volunteer. Now I'm walking him to his room like a year later, like it's security because I'm a bigger guy. So he's like, hey, tell me your story, man. So I tell him my story, what's going on, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, cool story, and this kind of part ways. And I see him a little more over the time. There's like 6 events a year. I kept seeing him, and eventually something happens where like he asks a question about fitness, and I go, yeah, you got to do this thing for your back. And I get in the ground and I do this scorpion. He's like, damn, for the size you are. He's like, I don't think you could be that flexible. How'd you do that? I go, oh, well, I stretch. I actually created a bag for this at my previous consulting gig. He goes, bring it to me. So I bring this thing called Gym in a Bag to the event one day. And I bring the bag, and the next morning he goes, hey, because my gym used to be called Trucks Training. He goes, hey, I did Trucks Training last night. I'm like, I closed Trucks Training. What are you talking about? I didn't even open it anymore. He goes, no, the bag. I go, oh, he goes, we're going to make this and sell it. I go, oh, dang. Okay, let's do this. So I flew up to Portland at one point in time, filmed this whole entire thing, and then we started selling it. So now I go from being this guy that's again in the stands doing my thing. I'm doing my own social posting, my own business of Trust Your Hustle and stuff. And this is a motivational company. He's asked me to do some fitness stuff. I'm like, all right, I'll do some fitness stuff. No big deal. So I do that with him. And now I'm talking to his 2,000, 3,000 people on stage about this fitness product. And I'm doing my thing, and I'm talking, I'm learning how to talk. And then at one point he goes, I can tell fitness is your thing, but like, it's like, there's something more you want to do? And I did. I wanted to do more personal, development type stuff. And I go, I really want to talk about like, life and everything. And so I've been talking about Trust Your Hustle before. He goes, I want to invite you to this mastermind that we're doing. It's called the Shotgun Mastermind in the woods in Wyoming.
Mm.
And so it's me, Dave Hollis, Jeff Walker, Lewis House, Trent Shelton. Who else was there?
Dean and when was this for context? Like what year was this?
2017. This is 2017 now.
Oh, so this is pretty recent. Okay.
Recent. Yeah. Russell Brunson, all these guys. There's amazing minds there. Craig Clemens. I'm trying to think of everybody. Alex Ortner. I don't want to miss anybody. But we're all there out in this thing, and we're all just chatting and sharing and talking. Now, by this time, I'd been building a coaching business. I'd been doing my thing on Trust Your Hustle. I've been doing a couple speeches here and there for colleges. I'm doing my own work in the background. Never taking handouts. I want to earn my seat at the table. So but I'm in the tutelage, right? I'm around this group and around, Brendan and kind of what he's got going on. And then at some point he asked me to go here. I've been building this business. And so I go, and I'm sitting there and I'm telling my story that, it's my turn to talk, and everybody had their own opportunity. And then my turn comes and I tell my story and what I do. One of the guys goes, I don't like it. I go, what do you mean you don't like it? He goes, I don't like it. I go, but this is what I've been working on for a lot of years. I mean, since I came into Experts Academy in like 2014, like this is what I've been doing, this Trust Your Hustle concept, right? Because I developed this before I even got into the world. I had made this statement and bought a t-shirt or like this whole statement. It was cool. And he goes, you know what? Here's why. There's this connection that has to take place. And if it's missing, you'll fall short in this world. He says you must have a message and be the messenger, and they have to connect. A messenger with the wrong message makes no impact. A message with the wrong messenger makes no impact. He says, you're the messenger. You can talk, you can share, you can teach. I get that. He's like, I can tell your story is amazing. He says, but the message is wrong. I feel like there's more to you. He's like, I know what you've gone through, what you've been through. You just told us. He's like, how did you navigate the identity of being the foster kid, of the athlete that sucked, the athlete that was good, the young dad, meeting your dad, your mom passing away, you losing football. But he's like, how did you navigate those identities, and how'd you get here in this room? I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I should go look at it. Everybody was like, yeah, identity. Oh, well, look at it. Take a look at that. So I started looking and come to find that like 70% of what I was already teaching was in relation to Trust Your Hustle, because Trust Your Hustle is you. It's still about identity. I'm like, oh, I'm already in that kind of pocket. Why don't you dive deeper? I had to get rid of the logo and the name and all that kind of stuff. I had to go this new direction, my identity shift. But I was like, let's go that route. And so went down that rabbit hole of understanding like, oh, I have a really powerful story there. I have a really good connection with what that stuff is. I have navigated all of this stuff. It is a thing the world needs. And it led to me obviously getting a lot more speeches, a lot more bookings, different business. It's grown immensely, coaching programs, all that stuff that builds. and it became the thing that is my thing now. And if you track all of it all the way back, my ability to run a very successful business, have a great life now, because even outside of the business stuff, I had life stuff going on,
Mm.
divorce, remarried to my ex-wife. Like those are also identity shifting stuff. Good dad, bad dad, in shape, out of shape, in shape again, all the stuff. But it tracks back to the conversation with my cousin introducing me to a guy named Tim way back in 2009 or 10 when my gym business was kind of doing its thing and struggling, and it progressively steps all the way up to today.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I had no idea that. I had no idea what that's how you first got exposed to, just not even Burchard, but like the online world
I didn't know it
in
existed.
general.
Yeah, whole different world. It was a definitive, like, uncanny connection,
Yeah.
serendipitous, we'll call it. But that was it. I just have always been a guy that whenever an opportunity presents itself, I see it as the opportunity it is. Usually.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we'll see things and we won't see them as opportunity. We'll see them as work, or we'll see them as hardship. We'll see them as a headache. And I go, ooh, if that's how you see it, you're not going to do it. But where's the opportunity here that I'm fine with taking on the headache and I find joy in doing the hardship, right? If I can do that, this is an actual opportunity for me. And so I think that's where it's always been, because I could have easily been like, volunteer, pay me, like, no, it's an opportunity right now, Aunt, to go hang out with these people for free and drive yourself to and from, establish relationships. Or I could have easily been like, no, I'm not going to put my stuff on the internet. Why would I do that? Like, I want someone to come to my gym to no, this is an opportunity. Like every moment of that journey could have easily been something where I just didn't do the thing, but I try to lean into stuff, and it's hard because sometimes you can get burned. You can give trust and have trust burn. I've had that happen, but I have had vastly more great things happen than bad things happen. And if I'm gonna put a wall up to stop the bad stuff, it's also to stop the good stuff. So I don't want that wall. I'd much rather have every once in a while something crazy come through because I'm strong enough to handle it at this point than to have none of the good stuff come through.
That's such a good point, where a lot of the time it's like, oh, this might be so much work, or this might be whatever, when really we're missing the chance to lean in on something, and you can always readjust along the way. So, and since you mentioned it a few times, I would love to go into just your story a little bit, and how, what you went through growing up and et cetera. I think you were a really pivotal person for me in my life, not just on the business side, but generally with like childhood upbringings amongst my friends and whatnot. I usually won like worst story type thing. And I never consciously, I don't know if I was conscious of it, but I think there was this slight scapegoat because of it in my head, where I was like, oh yeah, but I had it really rough growing up. And then I remember I met you, and I was like, okay, that guy's childhood makes mine look like Disneyland. Like, what the hell is my excuse? Right. And it was just this really good reflection of, hey, this isn't really not like it's not valid, but not like it didn't happen, but this isn't really a good reason to hold yourself back. So let's go into your story a little bit, and because it is really remarkable what you've come from and the life that you've created.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to share it. It's one of those things where in time you just kind of you share it, and then you find the world enjoys it, so you keep on sharing it. But yeah, I always find everything's relative, right? So my hardship is vastly different than many. And it doesn't mean by any means that what I experience should diminish somebody else's experience, because you have feelings associated with your childhood. And those feelings may have the exact same level of emotional pain as mine, but what triggered the feelings could be different, right? So I don't want people to hear my story and go, oh, well, I didn't have that, I shouldn't feel so bad. I'm like, nah, if you felt bad, like it's valid. You felt bad. It's a feeling. You don't gauge feelings. So for me, I was given away at 3 years old into the foster care system in California, which the foster care system essentially is, it's not really upheld to a high standard in any areas. It's pretty much like, we need this thing, let's just run it, make sure it doesn't fall apart. So ours was called a paycheck. As long as people didn't kill me and I didn't die in the household, they got a paycheck for me. So I wasn't treated very well. I was, beaten, starved, and tortured, a lot of weird stuff as a kid. And then at 6 years old, I landed in the family. It's my current family. The unique part is I was the only black person in a very poor, all white family. So in that environment, it didn't have like this anchor where I fit. There wasn't like I was like the square peg in a round hole kind of thing. I'm like, I'm here, But like this isn't my people. I don't look like them. And at school was even the same thing. So I had like the only guy look like I was the only person in my school looked like me until like 6th grade. It was like one of the little girl. So I didn't have a bunch of little black kids floating around. So I'm like always getting called black names and all that fun stuff was going on. So I had a lot of I guess it's just unsettling feelings for years. It wasn't the sense of like stability or peace or calm, whether it was at home where we were really poor, had a bad foster dad to begin with, and just hectic stuff, or at
Mm.
school where I'm always in trouble and acting out and don't fit in or getting called names and fighting on the playground. It was just a sense of just disarray. It was chaos. My world internally was chaos.
Mm.
And so it came out in actions. I was bad. I would act out. I'd steal things. I would be in fights. It was just always the same thing. And so for me, that progression led into just adulthood in weird ways. At one point, thankfully, when I at 14 got adopted, I kind of for the first time knew like, okay, this is my family. Like I'd never had that feeling until 14. So I'm like, it's my family. So I'd finally let them love me. I'd settled down a little bit and I had put this energy towards something that could return to me in a little bit more pride and self-esteem and more purpose. And that thing was football. I'm like, I'm gonna try this game that I really want to be good at, but I don't know if I'm gonna be good. And I went out and I wasn't good at all, not even a little bit. I sucked. But that's all of our journey, right? We're all trying things for the first time and going, I'm gonna try this thing. It's gonna be fun. And then you do it and you go, oh, I kind of suck at this thing. Oh, I don't want to do this again. And next thing you know, you're trying to find a way to check out or try to find a way to evade this situation. And so for me, I went in and I kind of chalked it all up. I was like, I'm done with this. My mom, adoptive mom, had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was one of 6. My older brother, who was like the rock, went off to the military. So I'm floating around and I'm just like checking out. And essentially, I'd given up on the ability to be good after 2 years of trying. And then I had this moment that kind of snapped me out of it. And I woke up and I was like, I can't be a sucky person. I got to find a way to do like dope stuff. I got to be great. And it led to me leaning in to take the actions towards being great in an area before I knew I'd be great. That I think is the cornerstone to what allowed me to grow past statistics of foster kids, which those who don't know, 75% of prison inmates in America's prisons are former foster kids, half the homeless population, less than 1% of us graduate from college. So those moments, man, what adjusted it was my mom loving me, but then me making this choice to lean in to choose to be great. Because and all of us, we know if I don't put the effort in, there's no guarantee that I succeed. Actually, if I don't put the effort in, there is a guarantee I don't. So if I do nothing, I'm gonna get nothing for sure. But if I try something, there's a higher probability of me having success. So I was like, well, I want the better chances. So the best way to have best chances is the best effort. So I started doing that. And lo and behold, after like a 7-month period, I came back as an animal in high school. Like I was a baller. I went from sucking to being a standout, getting moved up 2 levels of varsity, just balling out. And then you fast forward all of it. I get a chance to get a football scholarship to play football at the University of Oregon. My high school sweetheart goes up there. I meet my real dad. I have a son my sophomore year. I get to start my sophomore year, which is not normal at the Division I level, like at all. To start your second year there, not normal. But I balled. I did my thing. And then fast forward 3 years, I end up my senior year leading the Pac-10 in high numbers and like sacks, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, and like fumbles recovered. Like I did really well numerically. And they got a chance to play in the NFL. NFL, I got in, bounced around year to year to year with the Bucks, Redskins, Steelers. Got hurt in my 3rd year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. NFL stands for not for long, they say. Got hurt, came home, had a massive identity crisis, which is where the identity language came in. Because I was like, who in the world am I without this thing I've been doing? And we all have that moment. At some point in time, you are met with the reality of you can't do what you used to be doing, whether it was by choice or by chance. And I had that moment and everything came tumbling down. And I got to really dark bottom in a fog after like 3 years of like, my life sucks. My mom unfortunately lost her battle with multiple sclerosis. It was a trigger for me to find a way to make good on this life that I was not living in the right direction at the moment. And I did. I was like, I'm gonna start fixing things. And little by little, I started adjusting things. Because at this time, I'd had 2 more kids. I had got divorced from my high school sweetheart. I was living in like a 500 square foot studio apartment behind one of my staff's girlfriend's house, like super weird dynamics. And I got back on a faster track. I got that contract. This is all going on in the background, by the way, while trying to get this contract. I get this contract that starts funding my life a little bit differently to where I can now like eventually close the gym. Cause I was like, I want to just consult. So close the gym, venture into the speaking stuff, divorced for a lot of years. And then somehow I have like this really interesting awakening of like myself and who I was, and I didn't like who I was, and I realized that I knew what to do, but I wasn't doing it. I had the books, the courses. I was in masterminds for like 4 years, and like, but this is not turning into anything special, and I couldn't figure it out. And I figured out I was the issue. I was the common denominator in all of my problems. So when I worked on Anthony in a specific way, focus on identity, I started achieving more. I started eliminating the guilt that I had that was showing up in everything, from my faith to my finances to my health to my parenting to my relationship. I had this guilt-ridden experiences from the past, and I was living them every single day. I'm like, I got to stop doing this stuff. So I stopped, and then making that what I call an identity shift, the world changed. I remarried my ex-wife, built a great business, get to do what I do now. And I don't do it from any kind of space of a heaviness of guilt or feeling like I'm letting my mom down or anything. Like I operate at an almost instinctual level now. My life runs smooth. Things are dialed. They operate at a good tick. I don't fall short. I'm aware of what I put on the plate, don't put on the plate. I stick to my word. I stay in integrity. I just do certain things that are so, it's funny. They're so easy now, but they used to be hard. The key out of all of this is when you become like at an identity level, that person, the things that we find to be hard to do right now become hard not to do.
Mm.
That's the secret spot, because there's things we
Yeah.
know we gotta do, but they're so hard. I know my business will make more money. I'll have more joy if I do that, but it's so hard. What if it was hard not to do it because it was so in line with who you are now?
Oh man, that paints a really beautiful picture. But one thing I want to double click on there is how you let go of the guilt. The guilt around everything. Because I think that's something everybody struggles with. Like everybody's had, business ventures that have gone down or friendships that have gone sour, or they like, I don't know, we just kind of carry these weights sometimes.
Yeah.
And truly letting go of them, where you find that self-compassion, and that fluidity moving forward is really, it must be amazing. So
Yeah.
what were some of the things that came up that allowed you to let go of that?
I mean, it's a deeper dive. Let's go surface level for it real quick. There's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is this thing where I did something wrong. Shame is I am something wrong, and that's a hard place that a lot of people slide into. I did something wrong, therefore I must be something wrong. It's like, nah, you just did something funny, and a lot of it's unintentional. A lot of it's like I did this thing, and then without me knowing it, it was the wrong thing, and then this thing fell apart. The business venture. I tried the business venture. It didn't work out. I thought it would. I go, oh man, it sucks. Now that can go from like, that sucks, I did a wrong action. I can learn something. I feel guilty, but I can take an action to mitigate that. Or I feel like I'm something wrong. I'll never do it again. I'll operate from that emotion. It'll trickle into my parenting, to my relationship, to my health, and I'm fat, divorced, and out of shape, and that's what I was. Like I'd done that. I felt like when I lost football because I got hurt, I am something wrong. Like there's that's the difference. So that trickles in differently. And so for me, when I looked at the elimination of guilt later on, it was this realization of I'm not something wrong, because that fruit fell off the tree and I thought I was a fruit of the labor, which we all have the fruit of our labor. I thought I was football. When that fruit fell off the tree, I'm like, oh, I suck, right? I was fruit, I suck. But no, no, no. I've always been the tree, not the fruit. When we anchor to the fact that we are that tree, we realize that there's stuff we can do to actually make sweeter, more abundant fruit. Therefore, I am not that thing. I am this thing. This thing you're not going to move around. And so it went to this mental shift of, oh, well, if I took actions that led me to this place, can't I take actions that get me out of this place? It's an action thing. I love the statement that goes, action and suffering. The suffering of feeling guilty is ended by an action. The problem is a lot of us feel shame, so we don't take the action because I'm bad. Why take the action? But if it's guilt, I go, oh, okay, that sucked. I messed that up. Damn it. Let me fix it. I can fix it. I got it, guys. I'll go fix it. And so that was the mentality at that point. I go, well, what do I got to fix in my marriage? Like as a relationship, what do I got to fix in me? What needs to be shifted in how I parent? What needs to be shifted in how I show up for the business? My faith, my health, like all these things. When I started looking at the things I had to do, they were going to be very hard. Very hard. It's going to be hard to build a business and make money while still being a present father, while still being in shape, while still anchoring my faith, while still taking trips and escaping, while still living in a purpose. It's a lot of stuff to do, but I had to put the stuff together. And so I started crafting and putting together like this structure of how my life was going to be built and how I was going to live into it. and how I was going to take the actions to end that suffering. And at first, it's very hard. And then eventually it gets to the point where it is so in line with who I am that I can't go to sleep at night sometimes if I haven't done that thing. Whereas somebody else, they'll gladly go to sleep without doing it. Oh, I'll just deal with it tomorrow. I'm like, no, man, I promise people I do a podcast every day. I can't go to sleep and not do it. It's who I am to do it. So I'm going to get up at 2 a.m. and go record this so that they have when they get up at 2 a.m, right? There's a difference. And I've done this. I'm telling you, because I've done a year straight of every weekday doing a podcast. And there's been days I forget. And I wake up and I go, what's going on? Oh, if I missed it. And if it wasn't who I was, it would be hard to do it. I'm like, I got to get out of bed and go downstairs. Whereas now it is hard not to. It would feel icky not to. And when you can slide into that area for what matters in your life gets to this level where it's operating at a tick that people look at you and go, how are you a superhuman? How do you do all this and not get drained? Because the reality is, it's hard to do and hard not to do is a matter of, is it draining your energy? When it's hard to do, it drains your energy. When it's hard not to do, it's effortless effort. My tank's full. So I do all of that and I'm still happy and I still got energy. And people are like, dude, what's wrong? How do you keep? Because what you're doing that drains you is filling me up. It's because it's my identity to do these things.
Well, damn, that was awesome. Very cool. All right.
Welcome to my brain. The web that is, it is. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on in there.
No, but it's cool. And I think anybody can relate to, having awesome days where you have great conversations or you're doing something cool and you just feel filled up and you feel good. And you're not like, even if you get tired, you're like tired and happy, you're tired and satisfied. Like it's not that arduous slog. And like, what I think is really cool is you figured out a way to make your whole life like that, doing a lot of things that some people would look at as hard or arduous or like draining or etc. But to you, like you just program them in as.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think business owners will get this. I program it in the beginning and then it becomes the way the business runs. Think about this. Amazon is a business and it's structured itself to where it does certain things. And the culture is put in place, the way they handle situations, deal with customers, what they focus on, to where right now, Jeff Bezos one time said the Amazon culture is so ingrained that even he couldn't change it if he wanted to. He's the CEO. It's so ingrained, right? And why is that? Well, because they have systems, procedures, and process to where when something happens, the company has systems that say, this is how you do it. This is how you handle it. This is how you ship. This is how you send. This is how you email. This is how you meet. Every single little nuance to it. I have a client that's an executive at Amazon, so I kind of have some ins, we'll call it, to how they do things. And I'm like, this is cool because the way it works for us as humans, it's the same thing. Where Amazon had structure that told their clients, told their business, told their employees how to do it, most people do not have it for their life. They're waking up every day going, what should I do today? What should I do today? You think anybody at Amazon wakes up and goes, what should I do today? No, Amazon's got systems telling that person what to do, because when it's telling you what to do, the good thing is you get to show up and just give energy, not thinking energy, but effort energy. And if you do that, then what happens is it becomes effortless effort, because the biggest, I think the hardest effort for a lot of us is thinking of what to do. What should I do? What should I do? And it gets draining, and it's like, what should I? And we actually have that decision tank, that the decision making, like the tank, it empties. There's a whole concept around this to where if I have more decisions being made, I deplete the tank. Therefore, I don't want to give any more energy. So like the president only wears like 2 suits sometimes, like, what's his name?
The exact same outfit every day. Yeah.
So I eliminate the need to think and make choices. But if you get up every day in your life and you're going, what should I do? You're eventually going to not do that thing because you're drained. You're tired. I can't give it. So what I do is go, okay, great. How can I structure my life to where my planner, my day is telling me what has to get done? What happens at 1 o'clock, 1:15, 2 o'clock, 3? What happens at that time? And it tells me what to do. Then I get up and go, I'm just going to follow this thing today. And I go and I just follow along. Now my decision tank is still full. I've got the job done. And I feel like I have lightness to my life still. And even more so because it becomes normalcy to do it and I have joy attached to it, the habit building. If you talk about BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits, there's a positive association emotionally with the thing I did because it wasn't this draining, soul-pulling thing. So I'm like, oh, I like that. And now it feels more joy. Even if it's hard for somebody else, It's more in line with who I am. I like this. I want to do this. And then I don't want to not be the guy that does this. I can't not do this. I can't not send the email. Can't not make the call. I'm going to do that thing. And now it flows. And now I don't have the draining of my brain. And then the life that I'm living it's already structured in a way to become that person who has that thing. So it's not this, like you said, how do you plan it? I just plan out who I want to be, not what do I want to do or what I want to have. Who do I want to be? And that the actions.
That's a really good distinction. Do you think the fact that you were able to get around a lot of these incredible humans, like when you went on that retreat with Brendan and Craig and Lewis and et cetera, do you think that shaped a lot of the actions that got put down there? Like maybe you saw examples or you heard examples of what these people with successful businesses are already doing. And then do you think that shaped some of the, I guess, confidence around, hey, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to be this person and it's going to work?
Yes and no. I think that we already know. Like there are things I know for business that I got to do, even if I know what they're doing may not associate with my business because it's not that level yet. To be in osmosis, to be around it and feel it definitely is a benefit. I watched Tom Bilyeu and Lewis talk about YouTube one night to like 2 a.m. at depths that were beyond my comprehension. So I didn't gain that, but I got to feel the heat. I get to be like, ooh, that when I am at that level, I'll know what it feels like. When I can feel normalized, that temperature, I know I'm making moves, right? So you just listen, you pay attention, you hang around. But the reality is you don't have to be in that room to know what you're supposed to do. We already do know. We're just not doing it typically, or we're battling it in our heads. We're trying to convince ourselves to do it because we're operating off the emotion of doing it. Now, yes, I did see some of the things they did that would fuel one of the 10 areas that we experience life, maybe career, right? Maybe 2 of them. If it could be career and possibly like finance, I can hear about they spend money, but there's still 8 other areas of life that they're not going to even help me with. But the thing is when I can look at my life through these different filters and go, hey, how do I navigate these areas properly? What are the things that should be plugged in and go, okay, great. I want to become the person that's like this with my money. I want to become the person who is like this with his faith. I want to become the person who's like this with his marriage, with his parenting, right? It's tied to actions, but it's becoming that. Okay, what would that person do? How would their morning look? How would their lunch look? What would they do in their downtime? How would they look at social media? All these little things. So when I start looking at those questions, I'm giving answers and taking actions that are outside of my current character, my current identity. And that's the kind of stuff that's going to be hard. It shouldn't be hard to think of what to do, because if it is, you drain all your energy thinking of what to do, and then you have nothing left to do it. It sucks. So for me, I'm like, well, who is that person outside of myself? Not what would future Anthony do, because that guy I don't know, but I do know what this person is right now who has this thing. I know what they would do. And if I can plan for that and I can do that when I show up to that moment on my day on my calendar, I go, oh, I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna get it done. I jump in. And I didn't have to think about doing it. I just took the action and did it, right? And then I get feedback from life. I think one of the big things people stress with or struggle with in that little pocket is, but Anthony, it's not who I am to do it. Well, yeah, of course it's not. But the problem is you have this fear and this anxiety around the fact of when you do it, you're comparing yourself to the person who's been doing it for a long time. You're identifying with the outcome of the action. I just identify with the efforts. I don't know how to do that thing. It ain't who I am just yet. It's out of character. I plan this way in advance. I'm going to just show up and do it. We're going to see what happens, man. And I go do my thing, and I'm identifying with the effort. If I do it and I bomb, hey, you know what? I didn't do great. In comparison to that, I didn't do it. You know what? I gave the effort. I feel good about the effort I gave. That was the best I could do today. Cool. So now I got a positive, little bit of a joy. I'm becoming the kind of person who takes the effort and takes the action. That's the first becoming. I'm becoming the person who takes the action. Then you become the person who is in the back end of the action taken. I eventually am good at a podcast, or I'm good on stages, or I'm good as a coach, whatever it is. But it has to start with you taking the actions in the direction of simply effort.
And one thing I like, and I only know this because I know you personally, but there's a lot of stuff out there now around like ADHD has become very cool lately, and all this stuff is that, and that can attribute to a lot of overthinking. But you have severe ADHD, and I only know that because I know you. I hope you're cool with me sharing it, because I just did. But you deal with that. But what I like about it is like you almost just hyper focused on the action part of it and who do I want to become, and that was allowed. I think it's something that's allowed. It seems like it's allowed you to move forward quite quickly and bypass a lot of the overthinking by just being very strategic, almost like strategic, but like firm in that way?
Well, I think we have this. It's called perseveration. Those of us who have ADHD, like you, perseverate over something. You see it, and I can't shut off the switch that wants it. I just
Mm.
have, I just have to have it. My son does this. My youngest son has it too. When he wants it, he wants it. Like he wanted some popcorn that was given to me as a gift when I won the costume competition for Halloween, and he wanted it. He asked me, "Can I have it?" No, I'm going to have it. It's to be mine. He asked his mom. He put it in the car on a tripper and take. I'm like, bro, what is going on? It was in his psyche. He could not release the button that was like, I want the popcorn, want the popcorn, the popcorn. And so I know that exists in me. And so in that, I'm not good at controlling that, but I'm good at giving it boundaries to run free within. So for me, for example, I'll perseverate in hour chunks. So if an hour is like, I'm going to go to the dry erase board, beautiful. I'm set a timer. I'm set my environment. I'm putting boundaries on that. I'm going to find a way to find joy, which for me is music. I'm going to put music on. I'm going to just go to work and I get to be in my pocket and the world drowns out. So in that hour where if me and somebody else had an hour to start brainstorming on a topic, right? Well, for somebody, they're going to sit there in that topic. They're going to brainstorm and they're going to think about this thing for the first 5 minutes and the other thing for 10 minutes. And then someone's going to call. They're going to pick the phone up for 10 minutes. They're going to try to focus back again. They're going to go, what was I thinking about? By the end of the hour, they got maybe 15 minutes focused on it. Whereas for me, I'm like, phones away, music's on. I'm in here, pen in hand. Let's go to work. And I'm done. And I drown out. So where you had 15 minutes, I got 45 focused minutes. And it was hyper focused. Like nothing else mattered. If someone burned a house down, I wouldn't even know what happened, kind of thing. Like the world disappears around me. So not only is that 45 minutes better than your 15, it's 45 more minutes of it, right? So it's an hour actually. It's vastly different. And my ADHD in that aspect has become a very good tool. It's an asset for me. I'm aware it operates there, but it shows up when I'm driving in the car, I'm watching movies, or I'm playing with my kids. You know, it does. But my ability to navigate that, I think football helped immensely, teaching me how to like sit in a room quietly and look at silent film for an hour. Like those little things, I had to figure out how to control it to operate in society. When I learned how to control it, it became a superpower. Hold on. My wife is doing what she does.
Problem. We'll wrap it. We can edit this part out. We'll wrap it up right after.
I got you. We're here.
Cool. All right. Well, this has been phenomenal. Where can people find you?
If you go to @AnthonyTrucks on Instagram or AnthonyTrucks.com.
I love it. And some rapid fire questions, just because why not? What is the best thing you bought lately that is under $100?
Under $100 that I've bought. What have I purchased under $100? I don't know. I really don't. I got a Ridge wallet. This has been cool. I got this Ridge wallet for like $85. It's like a little elasticy, like RFID blocker for my wallet and my money. There you go.
Oh, very cool. Ridge wallet. I love it. And what is the one book that you gift the most often?
Mine, Identity Shift, IdentityShiftBook.com. Go check that one out.
Yeah, that's really good. It's your new one. I 100% stole these questions from Tim Ferriss, by the way, if they sound familiar.
Hey,
and last one, if you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, real or fictional, who would it be and why?
Anthony Trucks in the future, because I'm dead serious. Because
I love that. No. I love that. I've never heard that answer.
I don't know anybody else that would get my brain. So if I ask somebody a question, I'm going to get that brain giving me information. But like if I ask Ant, hey, bro, what's it like in the future? What did you do wrong? He'll be able to tell me. I'll go like, oh, I get it.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you again for being here. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week. See you later.
This broadcast is brought to you by WINJECT Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.